Welcome back to AI Podcast, everyone. Today, we're diving into something pretty big that came out of Google I/O 2025. We've got all the source material you sent over, and we're going to unpack this new capability they're calling DeepThink.
Yeah, this one definitely made some waves. It's being framed as a pretty significant step forward, layered onto their top AI model.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, our goal here is to figure out, what is DeepThink really? Why is it important? And maybe most importantly, what could it actually mean for you? How you might end up using AI down the line.
And it's important to clarify right off the bat, based on the materials, this isn't like a brand new AI you download. It's more
No.
like an enhanced mode for reasoning,
Yeah.
specifically for their Gemini 2.5 Pro model.
Okay, like flicking a switch for harder problems.
Sort of, yeah. Think of it as unlocking a much more deliberate, deeper processing capability that's already inside their most powerful AI.
Okay, let's get into that. This enhanced reasoning mode. What's actually different about how the AI works when DeepThink is, switched on?
Well, the core idea is really about enabling the AI to handle much more complex problems and critically with better accuracy. It lets the model, well, think, computationally speaking, much more deeply before it gives you an answer.
So it's not just predicting the next likely word anymore. There's more going on internally.
Exactly. The key thing your sources point to is something called multi-hypothesis reasoning. Sometimes they call it parallel thinking.
Okay.
See, standard AI models, they usually follow just one path, like a single chain of thought, step by step.
Right.
DeepThink is different. It's designed to explore multiple possible answers or multiple reasoning paths kind of all at the same time, in parallel.
So instead of just starting down one road, it's like it sends out scouts down several roads simultaneously.
That's a great analogy. Yeah, it's like the model is checking out several different lines of reasoning concurrently,
Yeah.
exploring different hypotheses inside its digital head.
And that helps how
Well, it helps it piece together what it thinks is the best overall solution. And crucially, it makes it more robust. It's less likely to get stuck on one wrong assumption early on because it's already exploring other options.
Okay, that sounds like it builds on research we've heard about, like chain of thought prompting, where you make the AI show its work,
Definitely.
and maybe even things like tree of thought, exploring branches.
Absolutely. It leverages those ideas.
Yeah.
But the difference here is it's trying to make it an internal automated mode. You don't necessarily have to craft some super complex prompt. You just invoke DeepThink mode, and the model handles this branching reasoning itself.
Gotcha. And where is Google aiming this? The sources mention some really specific tough areas where it's showing promise.
They did. Yeah, they specifically called out advanced math and coding as like prime examples. And the results they shared are pretty eye-opening.
Like what?
Like Gemini 2.5 Pro with DeepThink enabled, getting a really strong score on the 2025 USM math test. That's, a seriously difficult competition for top high school students.
Wow, okay. USML problems aren't just plug and chug. That takes real reasoning.
Exactly. And it also apparently topped the live code bench coding benchmark.
So it's not just about crunching numbers faster. It suggests it's actually getting better at complex, abstract, logical thinking, the kind needed for proofs or designing algorithms.
That seems to be the implication. Handling problems with deep logical structure, maybe finding non-obvious solutions,
Yeah.
areas where older models just, hit a wall.
Okay, let's peek under the hood a bit. Based on what the material says, we don't need all the deep tech specs, but what are the key pieces powering this?
Well, like we said, it runs on Gemini 2.5 Pro. That's the foundation. But a huge factor, which your sources really emphasize, is Gemini 2.5 Pro's massive context window. 1 million tokens.
1 million tokens. That number keeps getting bigger. What does that actually mean for DeepThink?
It means the AI can hold and reason about just an enormous amount of information at once. Think hundreds, maybe thousands of pages of text, long documents, transcripts, all in its working memory for a single problem. And that's critical for DeepThink, because solving really complex problems often means juggling tons of details, constraints, facts, all from that input material. You need the space to hold it all.
So DeepThink is the parallel reasoning plus this giant workspace.
That's the powerful combo, yeah. The core technique is that parallel reasoning, basically an automated branching version of chain of thought, probably drawing on DeepMind's research with things like tree of thought used in game AI.
But doing all that extra internal work sounds computationally expensive.
Yeah.
Slower.
Oh, absolutely. It's generating and evaluating multiple lines of thought internally. That takes way more compute than a standard query. The sources do mention it's expected to be slower, more resource hungry.
Which explains why it's aimed at the really tough stuff first.
Exactly. It's not for your everyday quick question. And Google also mentioned being careful with the rollout, right?
Or
Doing extra safety checks, because this kind of complex reasoning is still pretty experimental.
Right, you want to make sure exploring multiple paths doesn't lead somewhere unexpected. Makes sense. Okay, so where will people actually see or use this deep think capability? It's not just lab research.
No, definitely not. A big part of the announcement was about integration. So first place is the Gemini app itself.
The main chat interface.
Yeah, it'll be a mode within Gemini 2.5 Pro there. Initially for testers, premium subscribers,
Mhm.
you'll be able to specifically ask it to use DeepThink for those really challenging queries.
Like, hey Gemini, use DeepThink to analyze this complex legal document I just pasted.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
But it goes way beyond just the chat app. They're embedding it into Google Workspace.
Docs, Sheets, Gmail.
Yep. Imagine asking the AI in Docs to analyze a massive report and pull out the key risks. Or in Sheets, tackling really complex data analysis just using natural language. Or drafting an email that needs info from like 20 previous messages in a thread.
That huge context window again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
DeepThink plus the million tokens lets it handle that kind of complex multi-source task within your workflow.
And search in Chrome, too.
That's what the material indicates.
Yeah.
An AI mode in a search for more complex questions and Gemini integration in Chrome, particularly with that AI Ultra plan they announced. Think analyzing complicated web pages, comparing info across tabs, summarizing multiple articles right in the browser.
What about developers? Can they build on this?
Oh yeah, definitely. Access is coming via APIs through Google Cloud's Vertex AI. So developers can start building apps or agents that use this deeper reasoning.
Interesting.
Your sources even mention something called thought summaries via the API. It gives developers a peek into the model's reasoning steps when DeepThink is active. Some transparency there.
Sounds like a premium feature, though. You mentioned an AI Ultra plan.
Yes. That's where Gemini 2.5 Pro with DeepThink seems to be landing initially. It's priced at $249.99 a month, explicitly giving access for highly complex math and coding, positioning DeepThink as a high-end tool for demanding users, at least to start.
Okay. And what about research tools? Things like Notebook LM that handle lots of documents.
Perfect fit. DeepThink's ability to ingest and really analyze huge amounts of text research papers, manuals, reports is ideal for something like Notebook LM. Synthesizing insights across a whole library of your documents, that's exactly what it's built for.
So this definitely feels like Google staking a claim in that high-end, expert-level AI reasoning space. How does it stack up against the competition, like OpenAI's GPT-4 or Anthropic's Claude 2, based on the info you saw?
Yeah, the sources gave some direct comparisons, especially on those tough benchmarks we talked about.
Right, the math and coding tests.
Exactly. On that USAML math test, Gemini 2.5 Pro with DeepThink reportedly scored significantly higher than its standard mode, and also notably better than OpenAI's best models on that specific test. Same story for the live coding benchmark. It came out ahead.
So for those specific logic-heavy tasks, that built-in parallel reasoning seems to be the key difference maker.
That appears to be the narrative, yes. While you can try to prompt other models like GPT-4 or Claude to break down problems, DeepThink is designed to do that multipath exploration internally and automatically when you invoke the mode.
What about other factors, like handling images or audio?
Well, Gemini 2.5 Pro is natively multimodal, handles images, audio, etc., alongside text. GPT-4 has vision, but Gemini's integration might be smoother, plus it has that much bigger 1M token context window. Claude 2 is mostly text-focused, huge context too, but still smaller than Gemini's latest. So for tasks needing analysis of super long docs plus other data types, Gemini with DeepThink looks uniquely positioned.
But the competitors still have their strengths, right? It's not just about benchmark.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
GPT-4 is mature, has incredibly broad general knowledge, huge ecosystem integration through ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot. It's very reliable for general tasks.
And Claude.
Claude's big emphasis is safety, that constitutional AI approach. It also has a very long context window, great for deep text analysis. And people often praise its clear explanations. They kind of pioneered demonstrating those really long context capabilities early on.
Okay, so pulling it together, DeepThink looks like Google's specialist for the really hard reasoning problems. Complex math, coding, synthesis over massive data sets. While competitors might be stronger in general use, platform integration, or have a different focus, like safety.
That seems like a fair summary based on the announcements.
Right. Let's bring this home. All this tech, these benchmarks.
Yeah.
Why does it actually matter for people listening? What are the real-world use cases that DeepThink enables, according to the sources?
Think about the tasks that just drain your brain power now, even if you're an expert. Productivity stuff, right? Analyzing that dense 50-page proposal to find all the risks. Making sense of complex financial spreadsheets just by asking questions.
Instead of complex formulas.
Exactly. Or drafting that one email that needs to summarize info scattered across a dozen messages. DeepThink is meant to handle that complexity. Digest the input, reason through it, give you the synthesis.
Saves a lot of time and effort. What about research? Education?
Huge potential there. For researchers, digesting piles of papers, comparing findings, spotting contradictions, generating literature reviews. Think Notebook LM on steroids.
Okay.
For education, especially advanced STEM fields, imagine a tutor that can really understand a complex physics problem you're stuck on. It could explore different ways to solve it internally, then walk you through the best path, step by step, and remember things over a long tutoring session because of the context window.
And software development, the benchmarks pointed there.
Yeah, super relevant. Debugging nasty code issues in large systems. You could feed it the code base, describe the bug, and it could reason through execution paths, hypothesize causes using that parallel thinking, and suggest fixes, or help design complex algorithms, refactor old code safely.
And other industries? Healthcare? Law? Finance?
You can see the pattern. Analyzing patient histories against research for treatment ideas, parsing huge contracts or discovery documents in law, analyzing complex financial models or regulations, even engineering troubleshooting or analyzing scientific data. Anywhere there's complexity, lots of variables, and a need for deep logical steps.
So the common theme is tackling problems that have just layers of complexity, requiring synthesis of tons of info or multi-step logic that trips up standard AI.
Precisely. It's about augmenting the human expert, handling the really heavy cognitive lifting so people can focus on the higher level strategy, creativity, judgment calls, moving beyond simple assistance to actual intellectual partnership on hard tasks.
So wrapping up, DeepThink really looks like Google pushing AI beyond just generating stuff towards, well, deliberate, methodical problem-solving for complex challenges.
Yeah, it's zeroing in on the hard stuff, using Gemini 2.5 Pro's power, especially that context window, and integrating DeepMind's reasoning research.
It's still experimental, premium for now, but it definitely signals where things might be heading AI as a genuine collaborator on demanding mental work.
It's a clear marker for the next frontier in AI reasoning, at least from Google's perspective.
So thinking about everything we've covered today from the sources,
Yeah.
what doors really open up when AI doesn't just spit out answers, but can genuinely think through tough problems from multiple angles, almost like a human expert really wrestling with something tricky? What's that demanding task in your life, the one that needs focus and juggling lots of information, that you could imagine an AI like DeepThink actually helping with, something to mull over?